For this internship, I was assigned to take the TT7860-BAL30 Attachment and Learning Graduate course, which had only been taught face-to-face, and convert it to a fully online course. I found out through the course of this internship that in a year it will be presented at a national conference in the United Kingdom to be offered countrywide. For an overview of what was done comes the first link to theory. For many of my coursework projects, I have either used the Dick and Carey model or ADDIE. The setup and expectations on this internship lent itself to try a new, popular model called Agile. Essentially, in my first conversation with my client, we outlined what the objectives were for the model, and with the content provided and some additional content that she added along the way, I created my first prototype, discussed it with her, tested it on my own accord, and revised based on feedback. Another prototype was then born, usability was planned, I met with my client for another time, changes were made, tested, and made revisions again. At this point, the final module was done. So here's a look at the final module in images, showcasing the before and after of the whole module. I created a banner to showcase what module was being viewed, created a navigation presentation for learners to view to learn where vital information was located within the course, and set this up for the announcements page. No contact page existed before, so I added the contact information of the two individuals learners would need to communicate with to be successful in this module. The schedule page was completely revamped and organized. Cognitive load theory suggests that the old organization was overwhelming and could not prepare students for the task at hand for the session. Chunking and reorganizing was provided to aid with this, and the use of objectives, leading questions, and content being separated from the tasks. The handbook was updated, changed, broken apart, and a PowerPoint presentation was added in the module for some important points to be pointed out during the first session. The handbook is nearly 20 pages long, and some of the information included in it isn't even relevant for students taking this module. My client stated it could not be shortened for the focus of the module because of the expectation at the university, but we could highlight important areas in the document and create a presentation for session 1, which we did. Without this, the learners would have been cognitively overloaded, missed essential information about course assessments, assignments, and just overall expectations and steps that they need to go through in order to hand in the assignments. The assessments page was added, and it showcased the rubric and assessment guidelines for both the action inquiry report and the formative assessment presentation that was added for an opportunity for more feedback prior to the inquiry's completion. This separated these key assessments from the handbook and other coursework and allowed us to provide better guidelines on how the student should approach the assignments. Without these guidelines, students would have no clear set expectations, necessary for instructional design and performance improvement. A folder for Skype tutorials was added to the resource page, as that is the client's preferred method of face-to-face time online, and the learners will need to utilize this program for the personal tutorials that occur at the learner's request and the instructors after the formative assessment presentation has been handed in to get feedback prior to completing the action inquiry report. The discussion board and journal tutorial area was added to not only allow learners to begin thinking about their focus for the assessments, but to provide collaboration between peers and the expert being the professor. Vygotsky and many others who have followed him to develop many different learning theories suggest that learning is best manifested when learners are allowed to collaborate with their peers and experts, and that they are even pushed to new limits via the zone of proximal development. SlideShare was used to embed presentations directly onto the site, and videos were also embedded. It is good design and multimedia practice to have items easily accessible in a learning space and should be no more than a couple of link clicks deep. Without embedding these, we would have broken this rule by having another window open more than a couple of clicks, and thus have taken the learner's focus away from the work at hand within the module. The key areas of pride concerning this entire internship experience was what I accomplished with the module. Overall, the organization of the model, everything is now broken apart into manageable chunks for the sessions, even with the new activities added. A flexible monthly timeline is given for each session, which was difficult to get from the client, and more concrete due dates will be given as the course gets closer to running online. Also, embedding the presentations, utilizing SlideShare, and adding videos to run within the window are all exciting, as every aspect of content before led the learner outside the module into different windows. With the exception of the articles and handbook, all material is now viewable from the module itself, aiding in not overwhelming the learner. However, the articles and handbook are allowed to be downloadable so they could be printed off in case print is the preferred way to read for the learners. As mentioned before, collaboration is such a vital part of learning, and it should not be forgotten in online modules. For this reason, though, it took a couple of meetings and proposals. The client was motivated and even excited to create the private journal area in the group discussion board, allowing for collaboration with peers and expert instructor to occur. But it took a little coaxing because they're not graded. The discussion boards and any type of participation requirement are not graded there. However, she did see the benefit and then was excited to change. Finally, after having my final meeting with my client, she proceeded to send a private email providing thanks and showing exceeding satisfaction with how the module had turned out. This email was the cherry on top for this amazing internship experience.